dual recording on the Canon R5. Canon finally got it to us, so let's go ahead and take a look at how it works and what you can and can't do with it. When you're cooking like a ham and you bring it out of the oven and it tells you once you pull it out, you need to let it sit on the counter for another like 10-15 minutes to let it cook a little further because it's not quite finished cooking yet. That's kind of like the Canon R5. Canon released this last year in 2020, and it was a really intriguing camera, but man, it was not fully baked. And thankfully, Canon has released firmware update after firmware update that has really fully cooked this little camera and made it better and better with each update. Now there's one update in particular that really knocked the socks off the Canon R5, and that was the 1.4.0 firmware update for the Canon R5. Now I've talked about this update a number of times and it's really great. I mean, the big thing I think that we all know, the big highlight of it is the 8K RAW through the HDMI up to your recorder. So you can now record 8K RAW on a recorder like the Ninja 5 Plus. But what I wanted to do is talk about another update that came in 1.40 that I've heard it mentioned, but I don't think it's gotten enough love, so I just want to call a little more attention to it because it's something that honestly should have been there from the first day this camera released. And that is now you can do dual recording on your Canon R5. And this is absolutely amazing because now if you're recording stuff, you can automatically be making a safety backup as you record. And if you're doing commercial work, this is one of those things that I think is so important because you just don't get a lot of chances to redo those shots. Now, what I wanted to do today is to show you how to get dual record on the Canon R5 and also let you know where you can and can't use it. You can use it for most of the Canon R5, but not all of it. So let's take a look real quick at where this works and where it doesn't work on the Canon R5. Okay, so what we want to do here is we are going to click on our menu and go to the setup menu. And we'll look at the very first setup menu. You'll see record function and card holder. So we're going to go there, and if you look here, you'll see options. What you want to do is you want to come down to the video record options. And if you click on that, you'll now see record to multiple on your options. So we'll click on that. So now what I can do is I can take my two cards. I have an SD card and a CF Express card. I'll put them in here. I'll hit OK. And now when I hit record, boom, it is now being recorded to both devices at the same time. This is great because now you can get that backup recording as you are filming. Now, that being said, I want to tell you, you cannot record every single component of this on the tool cards just because of write speed limitations, but you can do most of it. So let's talk about what you can and can't record on the Canon R5 and dual record. So, okay, let's start off with 1080. If you want to record in 1080 on the Canon R5 now, you can do everything dual record slots all the way up to 120 frames a second, which honestly is pretty awesome because that is a lot of frame rates. If you need 120 frames an option and you just want to do 1080, now you know you can get a backup going on at the same time. Now for 4K HQ, which is one of the amazing aspects of the Canon R5 with that downsampled 8K sensor, you have no limits on dual record. You can record 4K in all-eye, IPB, or IPB light at all of the 4K HQ frame rates, no limits whatsoever on dual recording. 4K standard, you're completely fine until you get to 60 frames per second. Now, if you want to do 60 frames a second dual record, you can get a dual record, but not in all-eye. You have to be in either IPB or IPB light. And this includes both full frame and crop. I actually love IPB and IPB light especially. I'll put a link up here to it, but that is something to consider if you are an all-eye shooter. You can't dual record, but if you IPB and IPB light, which are great codecs, you absolutely can do 4K 60 frames per second in those codecs. Now, when you get to 8K, you can record dual recording in 8K, but you cannot record dual all-eye. So that means if you set your 8K to IPB or IPB light, you absolutely can dual record on these cards, but you cannot do it in all-eye. So just a little something for you to know if you're an all-eye shooter. But like I said, I love IPB and IPB light. I actually use them all the time, even on commercial projects, especially if I don't have to push the grade too much. And I think that's an amazing option to be able to get these 8K footage and have it backed up at the same time. That is awesome in the situation. Now, the one area where you really cannot get any dual recording is in the 4K 120, where you cannot record in dual. Just the SD cards just cannot handle that speed. So just to recap, you can record almost every codec in the Canon R5 in frame rate that you want on dual recording, and the only exceptions, I'll put them up here right now just to put it, is 8K RAW, 8K All-I, 4K 60 All-I, and 4K 20. But everything else on the camera you can get, and the great thing is even 8K, 4K 60, you can still get those in a different codec, just not All-I. Anyway guys, I know that information has been out there, but I just wanted to share it with you so you knew further how to unlock your Canon R5. I hope that was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, guys, go out there, keep on shooting, and yeah, I'll talk to you soon.